So think about this for a second. What if the keys to America's digital Fort Knox weren't stolen by some elite foreign spy agency, but were basically just handed over by mistake? Today, we're breaking down a pretty shocking security breach that shows how the US government's multi-billion-dollar crypto stash was compromised from the inside out.
Yeah, because this isn't your typical story about sophisticated state-sponsored hackers. Nope, this is about a single, almost unbelievable mistake that unraveled a multi-million-dollar federal crime in just about the most public way you can imagine.
So how does a crime of this magnitude even get exposed in the first place? Well, it all starts with a single, incredibly reckless moment of bragging in a private online chat. It all centers on this pretty obscure subculture ritual called band for band. And you gotta understand what this is. Think of it like a high-stakes digital staring contest. You don't just show off a bank statement. You prove you're legit by moving millions of dollars in crypto live for everyone on the call to see. It's the ultimate flex, and it's exactly where the thief made his fatal error.
So during one of these band-for-band rituals, a user who goes by the name Lick decided to prove his financial might. And what does he do? He screen shares his crypto wallet. And in that one single click, he accidentally exposed way more than he ever intended to.
And here's exactly how the whole mistake went down. First, boom, his Tron address, holding over $2 million, just pops up on screen for everyone to see. Then, as if that wasn't enough, to really show off, he moves another, almost 7 million in Ether live on the call. I mean, for the investigators who would later see this, it was an absolute gift. They literally watched him consolidate $23 million into one wallet, leaving behind a perfect digital breadcrumb trail. He basically drew them a map. That one screen share basically started a ticking clock. Investigators now had this digital thread they could pull on, and that thread led from a stupid brag in a chat room right back to a US government vault.
And this is where the blockchain itself becomes the star witness, right? Every single transaction is public, it's all out there for anyone to see. So these on-chain investigators, most famously a researcher named Zach XBT, took that wallet address from the screen share and just started working backward. The trail they uncovered didn't lead to a darknet market or some big exchange hack. No, it led directly to wallets controlled by the United States government.
And you have to understand, this wasn't some quick smash and grab. The timeline shows this was a breach that went on for almost 2 years. It started with nearly $25 million being moved from a government wallet. Then there was this bizarre drain and partial return of funds. And it all ended with over 40 million being consolidated into one place, the very funds Lick was flexing with in that chat.
But the true scale is even bigger than that. So, while the confirmed theft from the US Marshals wallets was around $40 million, investigators found the total flow of funds connected to this whole network was over $90 million. This wasn't just one theft. It was part of a much wider pattern of illicit activity. So the big question, right? How on earth does this even happen? How does someone just walk away with crypto that's been seized by the federal government? The answer isn't some brilliant hack. It's a story of a deeply flawed government contract and a shocking family connection. Okay, so let me introduce you to the company at the center of all this, Command Services and Support, or CMDSS. They're an IT firm, and in late 2024, the US Marshals Service hired them to manage all the more complex, less common cryptocurrencies that the government had seized from criminals.
And here it is. This is the kicker. The alleged thief, the man known online as Lick, was identified as John DeGita. And he just so happens to be the son of Dean DeGita, who is the president of the very company hired to safeguard these assets. I mean, it is the literal definition of an inside job, made possible by what appears to be a catastrophic failure of internal controls.
And when you look back, the warning signs were just blinking red everywhere. The Marshal Service rejected a more qualified company who then filed a formal protest. In that protest, they pointed out that CMDSS wasn't even a financial firm and didn't have the proper licenses. But that protest was simply denied. They just moved forward anyway.
And right here, this is the core of the problem. You see, for its Bitcoin, the government uses a company like Coinbase, a highly regulated, publicly traded financial institution. But for these other assets, they hired an IT firm. They treated a financial security problem like it was a simple tech support issue, and that fundamental misunderstanding is what left the door wide open.
This wasn't just a $40 million mistake. This one failure exposes a potential vulnerability in a digital vault holding tens of billions of dollars. To really get the gravity of the situation, We have to look at the sheer scale of what's at risk.
Okay, so let's put the numbers in perspective. This flawed contractor was handed a portfolio worth $77 million.
Of that $77 million, $40 million was confirmed stolen. Just gone. More than half of the money they were supposed to be guarding.
And the wider network this was all connected to, it moved over $90 million in illicit funds. But all of that, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the real prize. The U.S. government's total crypto holdings, worth an estimated $30 billion. This one theft exposes a crack in a fortress holding a national treasure.
And securing this matters more than ever right now. The U.S. recently shifted its policy from just selling seized Bitcoin to actually holding it as a long-term strategic asset. They basically created America's digital Fort Knox. But really, what good is a fortress if a contractor's son can just walk out the back door with the gold?
So where does all this lead? Well, the story doesn't end with the discovery. The fallout has been swift, it's been bizarre, and it will very likely lead to some major changes.
And he just can't make this stuff up. In a move of just unbelievable brazenness, the suspect allegedly launched a meme coin on Solana named after himself, using his online handle Lick as the ticker symbol. The coin, unsurprisingly, rocketed up and then crashed 97%, a move that many people see as either a final, taunting flex or maybe an attempt to launder funds.
The real-world consequences, though, are serious. That CMDS contract will almost certainly be terminated. The remaining assets will be moved to a real, qualified custodian. And this whole failure is sparking urgent calls for new laws to govern how the feds handle digital assets, with a growing debate over whether the Department of Justice is even the right agency for the job.
And this leaves us with the central question. The blockchain gave us a permanent, unchangeable record that uncovered this entire crime. But this story proves the real vulnerability isn't in the code, it's in the fallible human systems we build on top of it. The blockchain is permanent, but this case forces us to ask, is the government's ability to protect it?